trying to get help, y'all, but...
What do you need help with?
Nothing. I just... Please, God, please, God.
Minutes later, Massey picks up what appears to be a pot of boiling water from her stove. The deputy on screen identified by prosecutors as Sean Grayson.
You better I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot! Drop the
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
The coroner confirming the mother of two was fatally shot in the head. Her body blurred by police in the video.
I'm not taking hot boiling water to
Former Illinois Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson was just found guilty on October 29th, 2025 for the fatal shooting of Sonia Massie, a former video that we broke down when the shooting occurred. We want to go over it, talk about it. There's actually a lot to go over since last year we put the first video out, how this jury trial broke down, our thoughts on he was found guilty on second-degree murder. We're going to give everybody our thoughts on that. Should it have been harsher? Was it a justified shooting? All of that. And so let's get into it. Let's give everybody just a recap of the actual incident itself.
So deputies responded to Sonia Massie, who contacted law enforcement on July 6,
2024. So just a year ago.
Yeah, basically asking for help, believing that there's an intruder in her house. Two deputies respond, and it ends up in a fatal shooting based on a confrontation where Sonia Massie raised a pot of boiling water. In Sean Grayson stated that he felt threatened by the pot of water, that he would be scolded, and that was off of the term or the statement that she made specifically that he believed to be a threat. That's ultimately why he ended up shooting her.
And that's the whole interesting thing about all of this. And in the original video that we posted, and if you guys want to go back and watch it, it's on there. I can link it in this description. But our conversation was, in watching the body cam video, first of all, his body cam was not turned on. It was his partner's body cam that was on. And in watching it, the biggest contention of it was, did she pick the pot of boiling up hot water and make any type of motion like she was going to throw it on him for him to use deadly force? And does that justify using deadly force on somebody? And after watching the body cam, we did the video, we had Scott Savage on, and we all came to the conclusion that no, that we felt as if that was a bad shoot. There was nothing to indicate that his life was he was going to receive great bodily injury or death from her. Interesting enough, his partner did stay and testified in court recently that at no time during the encounter with Sonia Massie did he feel she was a threat to them at all. Now, he did also have his gun out, and we'll talk about that and why we believe that he did. But the whole case was interesting. It only took just over a year from start to finish, which is pretty fast given the nature of what happened. And so, again, it goes back to those guys were in that house. It almost seemed like they invited themselves in after she called 911. They knew that she had a mental health problem. And while inside of her house, instead of just leaving when they realized that no crime had been committed, there was nobody lurking around outside of her home, it's not illegal to have a mental disability, they should have left. And they didn't. They kept prodding at her. That's when she ends up making this statement.
Yeah, and that statement was, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And we also talked about in that video with Scott that what if, and there are times, and we use the example of you're in someone's home and there is a pot of water or something cooking and the person in the home brings that up to you. Do you allow them to go into the kitchen? And if I remember correctly, the answer was no, you try not to, and you try to allow them to let you go in there and turn it off so they don't access weapons or knives or anything like that, and you would turn it off. That was part of our discussion as well. It was a very interesting discussion because I do remember very vividly that we both, including Scott, believe that not to be a justified shooting.
An intuitive cop would go in that house and would recognize that there's a boiling pot
of water
on the stove. Go turn it off. You don't even need to say anything. Just go shut it off, right? I mean, if you notice that. But if you also saw that she's walking into the kitchen, she's not, completely listening to what you're telling her to do, you know that there's nothing going on in the house and you chose not to leave, like, why wouldn't you just give yourself more space? You see the boiling hot water. She's walking towards it. You're asking her not to touch it. Why close the distance? Why wouldn't you give yourself distance or turn around, walk out of her house and leave?
Yeah.
So none of that made sense. He tried to justify the shooting in court, claiming self-defense.
Yeah, and he actually mentioned that he specifically did not use his taser because he said it was an older model and that Sonya was wearing multiple layers of clothing and he was afraid it wouldn't work.
So 2 deputies there both have guns out. Why do we think, if the one deputy is testifying that he did not feel at any time she was a threat to them, why was his gun out?
Oh, well, we talked a little bit before, and it's hard because there are times when you are with a partner and they pull your gun because they see something and you may not see it. And they were still fairly close, and he ends up moving a little to the right, which at one point he actually gets in front of his partner's gun. But I think that's a natural response to pull your gun because your partner's pulling their gun. And like when you pull your gun, that's a situation that is potentially escalating or escalated. So pulling yours, I think, is a natural response until you figure out what's going on. Because if someone next to you pulls it and you're like, hey, like there's a threat, you're naturally going to pull your gun.
Yeah, I think cops just shadow what other cops do. So if cop A pulls his gun, cop B also feels the need to pull their gun. And that's a, I don't even know what you would call that. That's like a training issue or just not having the wherewithal to know that if you're in a situation and you're seeing something, nothing is perceiving a threat to you, and your partner pulls a gun, maybe instead of pulling your gun, either ask your partner of like, what's going on? What do they see? Or pull out some type of less lethal and then communicate with each other on like, what do you got? Like, do you see something I'm not seeing? I think cops are too quick sometimes to, I won't say all the time, but sometimes to pull their firearm.
Well, there's an intimidation factor involved in that too, because
I think it's a safety thing for them.
Totally.
It makes them feel safe.
Yeah. You look at the training in the academy where someone's standing and then you pull your gun out and you're giving them commands, stop, spread your feet, drop down on your knees. Like you're going through that whole thing and you're using your gun and you're constantly using it.
Yeah.
And not always, it is obviously there to protect you, but some of it is an intimidation factor.
Yeah, like I'll see people pull multiple firearms with multiple cops on scene on somebody where you can clearly see that they have no weapon on them and they're still using their guns to give people commands. And I totally think that, I think you're right. I think it's a comfort thing for them, and it empowers them that if they have a gun in their hand and it's being pointed at somebody, that person is going to do what they say, and it's making them feel more confident in telling somebody what to do because they have that safety measure in their hand. I think if you take that away from people, they lose that. And so...
But you also have the backup, the other less lethal, which was a taser, which he's arguing that it's an older model, which I don't, to me, that's not an argument.
I don't know. There's so many older models of tasers. Like, I don't even know what, I wouldn't even know which older model he's talking about.
Right. But taking into account the clothing, that is an actual factor when you deploy tasers.
It is. Yeah.
Especially with older models. The newer tasers have better technology that are designed to actually penetrate clothing, and the technology and it's phenomenal, but that is a factor, but not in this case based on the court ruling and what his partner was saying. And it happened so fast. I think the partner probably pulled his weapon. The deputy moved in front of him. He could have gotten ready to holster, pull his taser. There could have been a transition period. We just didn't see that.
So jury indicted him on 3 counts of first-degree murder, plus aggravated battery with a firearm and official misconduct. The trial... Oh, sorry. What?
Let's talk about his history real quick, because that has also come up, because a lot of people are very upset about that, which was also...
So, yeah, it says that he has, Deputy Grayson had a history of misconduct, including DUI convictions and being discharged from the U.S. Army for serious misconduct. And he had still been hired despite numerous red flags. Yeah, I think some departments are very guilty. Even here in California, where we are very strict, some departments are guilty of being so short-staffed right now that they are lowering their standards. I mean, they're saying that they're not, but I have seen police officers get fired for pretty serious misconduct and then either get hired at another agency, or they're even being considered to be hired at another agency, pushed through backgrounds, and for whatever reason, maybe at the end of it don't get picked up. But it sucks and it's sickening to see that agencies are even offering those people a second chance. Like I've said this before, in this job, you have the utmost highest level of authority to take somebody's life legally and imprison somebody potentially for the rest of their life. That is huge responsibility. And there are cops out there who take full advantage of that. You see it all the time. And I am a cop. You were a cop for a long time. Like you're naive or your head is buried in the sand if you believe that there are not cops out there. And I even asked you, do you feel that there are cops out there who look for confrontation like this? Like they're looking to use their weapon, looking to shoot somebody. What do you think?
100%.
I agree. I totally agree.
Those cops. I've even said in the past, and I don't know if it'll ever change, but you take the youngest, most life immature adults that have just graduated the academy and you put them on the front lines dealing with the general public with the least amount of skill set, least amount of knowledge, least amount of investigative experience, least amount of driving, least of everything. And you put them in situations to respond to calls where they have to and are expected to make multiple decisions. And as you progress through your career in maturity and experience, the less of those are working with the general public when the time matters. I've always said it makes no sense for an officer to go and take a report for the first time knowing nothing and a detective that has the most experience to follow up on that. There needs to be a way of like different training or reorganizing or shadowing or starting someplace where you work with officers that have the most experience in an office type setting or an investigative field, learn what's happening, learn what's important, and then you go on the street and then you recognize what matters.
Yeah, no, man, I totally agree. Like, I think as a cop, you're making life changes for people. And I'm that guy. I started in this job at 20 years old.
And you've even said you should not have started 100%. At 20 years. Yeah.
100%.
And I commend you for that. That's
I had
not easy to
no
say.
business being a cop at 20 years old. I remember going to domestic violence calls, telling grown adults who had kids, and I'm living at my parents' house, how to police their own kids and their own relationship when I had never even been in a serious relationship. And I certainly had no kids, and I was living at home. I had no responsibilities.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, some people are probably going to get fired up about that. I don't know what the answer is. It took me a long time in my career. And really, it wasn't until getting married, even getting divorced, going through family court, dealing with child custody stuff, like all those life experiences that I got personally, it really didn't click for me until all of that happened. And so then when I started to go to calls involving stuff like that, I felt confident that I actually knew what I was doing and the decisions I was making was based on my own life experience. So,
well,
I don't know.
With this case, with the trial that is ended, it's set for sentencing in 2026, where he'll actually find what his sentence is, because there is a lot of people that are upset, rightfully so, that he was not convicted of a harsher sentence.
Yeah, let's get it. We kind of skipped over that. So I was saying he was indicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated assault with a firearm, and official misconduct. It was moved to a completely different county due to the publicity of it. That's pretty standard. And then on October 29th, so a few days ago, we're recording this just after Halloween, the jury found Grayson guilty of second-degree murder, which is a lesser-included offense, but not first-degree murder. And the possibility sentence for second-degree murder in Illinois is 4 to 20 years, which that's a huge gap. And though it says probation remains a possibility. So I don't agree with that. I think his behavior, plus if you look at his past misconduct and what he's been in trouble for in the past, like that to me seems, I feel like he should have been
that coupled
found
with
guilty with first degree murder.
I agree with you. And you couple that with the statement that he's saying that he's actually going to shoot her in the face.
Yeah.
He shoots 3 times and he does actually shoot her in the face. And with that, the family has pushed, and I would support it very much as well, the State Senate Bill 1953, which passed the House vote 101 to 12, in the hope of that Senate bill, it's actually the Sonia Massie bill. The hope is that it will bring more accountability to police agencies across the state by making them liable for who they hire. And the governor, Governor Pritzker, signed that police reform bill. And I just want to read his quote because it's actually pretty empowering. It says, "When Sonia Massie feared for her safety, she did what anyone else would do. She called law enforcement for help. Communities should be able to trust that when they call police to their home, the responding officer will be well-trained and without a history of bias or misconduct." And the governor continued to say, today, he signs the Sonia Massie bill to help prevent these tragedies, to better equip law enforcement to keep our communities safe, and to continue working to build a justice system that protects all of our citizens. So I'm in support of that bill. It's holding law enforcement agencies accountable for hiring people that should not be hired.
Well, you got to think, I mean, in law enforcement, you should be held to the highest of standards based on everything that we had just talked about with your level of responsibility that you have. I mean, you should be. And people that are not in the law enforcement world, they don't truly see how we do hold officers accountable. Some departments need to hold officers more accountable. And I do think that some officers do conduct themselves in a way that should lend them to be fired and not be in the profession. And sometimes they're allowed to stay in the profession. And usually those people end up kind of weeding themselves out over time because ultimately they just cannot not stay out of trouble. But yeah, I think in this profession, I've always said it, I've always held myself to this standard, is you should be held to a very high standard. Other professions can get away with doing certain things. I'm trying to think of a profession closest to us, and I would say either the fire service, EMT, paramedics, maybe hospital staff. They can get away with certain things where police officers or people in law enforcement just cannot. And it's because of the level of responsibility that we do have in law enforcement. So they are not the same. So that's kind of my thought on the whole thing. It does say that the county reached a $10 million civil settlement this year for the Massey with the Massey family. That's huge. That is a large chunk of money for that county to have to pay out to that family. You're talking about, things now that the sheriff's department and other county entities will not be able to get or have because that is such a large chunk of money. So it affects everybody in that community, the county.
Well, I like what you say that officers are held to the highest standard. And yes, they are, and they should be, and it should be very standard. And we know that it doesn't always happen. But what I like about the Senate bill is it's holding agencies to the highest standard, because oftentimes agencies are not held to that standard. So I think it's trying to balance it and bring some more.
And some are better than others. Some agencies are very good about it. Some agencies are not. Some agencies are kind of in the middle. And some states are a lot better at it. I would say California gets a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of crap here. But the
governor is actually hoping that other states will adopt a similar standard from this. She leaves behind children. Is $10 million enough for the family? I mean, that's, I don't know how you put.
Money will never bring her back.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of going through this looking. I think even watching the body cam of this video is good for cops to watch and just learn from it. Learn when to walk away from something where you don't need to be, and recognizing that there are cops out there who are looking for confrontation. And so you need to keep an eye out for that, especially as supervisors who run patrol teams. You should know the guys or girls that work for you, and going on calls, kind of seeing how they interact with the public. Are they a little heavy-handed? Do they talk down to people? Those are all things that as a sergeant, when I worked patrol, that I would look for. And if I saw the officers conducting themselves that way, I would pull them aside and say, hey, you don't need to talk to somebody like that. Give them respect. If people are being an asshole, so what? You're getting paid to deal with the lowest of society, and you get paid very well to do that. So if someone wants to MF you, so what? You don't go down on their level, right? Now, if somebody needs to be talked to like that, then fine, absolutely do that. But there's a time and a place. So I've always been kind of big on that, because I feel like if you're not and you let cops just continue to behave that way, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And we've seen it throughout history look at like the Rampart scandal, or the cops start to become dirty if you don't put them in check, and so that happens.
In my last little thought on this is, it again comes back to training and understanding what you can and can't do, and having the discipline at times where maybe these officers have tried for a long time to get into her apartment. I don't know. There's reasons you want to get into people's places, and maybe this officer really pushed that to get in, but understanding that there's times when you walk away, and it's okay to walk away. You have nothing on this call. You can tell there's something going on. You walk away.
Yeah.
It's okay to walk away.
Yeah, I think we're getting better in the law enforcement community about doing that. I think in today's world, especially with body cam and new laws and the reform that people want for law enforcement, which I'm not against, I feel like we are getting better at that. So anyways, it's a sad deal that I remember us doing this video, and I was kind of shocked to see just the other day that this jury had already went to jury trial, and they had a verdict. So
yeah, well, again, the sentencing is scheduled in 2026, and I think that'll be a major deciding factor of what happens after that. There's some things that are happening. The Senate bill is gonna go through. I think there's gonna be some police reform, but I think the outcome of this is gonna really trigger people to come to the streets, or they're gonna feel supported.
Yeah, I'm glad he was found guilty. I'm it's a little disheartening that he was only found guilty of second-degree murder. And look, a jury unanimously came up with this decision, and we were not in the courtroom. We didn't get to hear all the evidence, but at face value, and knowing his history, I guess I just wish he was never even in the profession to begin with.
Yeah,
and this would have never happened.
Yeah.
So it's just wild to me that it says the possibility for second-degree murder in Illinois is 4 to 20 years. That's such a huge
probation
difference. Or he can be given probation. So I
think that's why the family is rightfully upset.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the whole community is upset.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, we already covered really in depth the first video. So
yeah, I think just following up on this and just reiterating that you can't operate like that. That's just not acceptable, and you're going to be held accountable.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let us know what you guys think in the comments about all of this. I'm glad that it's come to an end, and I guess we'll figure out what he's end up getting out of it with a sentence. I'm curious. So
yeah,
drop a comment, let us know, and thank you for watching today's video. We will catch you on the next one.
Stay safe and be smart.